shape. And actually, you're also able to move the eye around. It's kind of hard to see in this video.
Wow.
Here they're moving the mouth around. You can also change the shape of the face. You move that around and then put it on. Okay, changing the hairstyle here. It's a little bit easier to understand here. You see him move it around and put it on the face. So this was coupled with something called a scenario disc that you would then use to animate these faces. And I thought this was a great idea. But there weren't very many people who agreed with me. They asked me, how can this be a game? So at that point, we pretty much stopped making progress on it, and the game was put on the pending list. But I always thought it would be a very fun idea. Still, we left it behind. But then it kind of awoke from hibernation after several years. In the 1990s, we released the N64 Disk System in Japan. So next I'll show you a video of how we turned this into an actual product. Something called Talent Studio that was sold only to the members of our RANnet network service. And in fact, Mr. Yamauchi, our former president, cooperated by creating a personal greeting for all the service members who bought this. Let's take a quick look. At this time, I would like to thank everybody who has become a member of our RANnet service. And the key features of this program were the wide variety of clothing options and a built-in movie editor. Actually, at my last JDC keynote, I showed a brief movie of me dancing that was based on this program. And of course, I believed that no one at Nintendo would be able to resist this idea. But somehow they did. But then came the e-reader and the Game Boy Advance. And the Game Boy camera. And with those together, I thought for sure we had the final answer. I thought everybody would love it. They would know I created amazing entertainment. Let's take a look. Is this some fun?
I know.
So at the time we called this stage debut. And I think some of you may have seen this at E3 2002. Come on, clap your hands together. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's why Mr. Yamauchi made him president. They both got great rhythm. Now to me it was obvious that this was going to be a huge hit. But inside Nintendo, the people who reviewed it still said, you know, sure, maybe this is funny, but you still can't make a game out of this. And I couldn't really refute what they had to say. And I thought maybe I should give up, but still, I was not defeated. So when Wii planning began, my team started thinking about how we could use this idea on the Wii. But then one day, Mr. Iwata approached me. With little Smorgon space, and he asked me, "Are we still playing around with that face creation idea?" And I said, "Well, yes, but we haven't been able to turn it into anything significant yet." And at that point, he happily informed me that another team inside the building was working on something similar as part of a DS game, and that they were making good progress. And I said, "This is exactly what I was thinking of." So I went back to my team and I said, "You guys are useless." So I told him I didn't need him anymore, and I went and worked with this other team for a few months. But of course, it's because I do things like this that my team often doesn't appreciate me all that much. But the fact that I'd gotten angry wasn't so much anger with them as it was my own frustration. You know, we've been working on this idea for 20 years, but we've never been able to turn it into much of anything. You know, of course, at the time, early on, people had evaluated the project negatively. Their view was that, this idea would be very popular with creative people who are artists, people who can draw. But then, it was too complicated. It would only frustrate the masses who aren't used to using these types of tools and who aren't as creative. And of course, others pointed out that there was no way to make this into a game. There's no way to make it profitable. Players might enjoy the creation process, but everyone questioned how long people would spend on it when there were a few ways to show off their creations. But finally, with the Wii, we managed to answer all of these questions. See, because creating these Miis didn't need to be a game in and of themselves. They could be stand-ins for actual players in games. They could be your family members' characters. They could serve many purposes in the games. And of course, because of Wii Connect 24, they could be shared between many players. But for me, the real breakthrough with this idea came when I reminded myself of that first corporate vision that I talked about today, the expanded audience. I realized that I had been seeing things exactly backwards. You see, over the years, by insisting that with every advance in hardware, that we also make the graphics more complex, the detail of the program more complex, the functionality more complex, it turned into less of a game and more of a utility. As we were making it, we ourselves were creating something that the average person would just look at and see as being too complicated. We were actually reducing the number of people who would ever want to use it. But once we started to reconsider the program to be something inviting to the widest possible audience, all the riddles were solved. The editor is simple, the choices are limited, the exchanging of Miis is easy. So my tenacity finally paid off. But it was only when I was willing to take the risk of looking at the problem from a different perspective. So of course, pursuing the latest technology is one way to create something revolutionary. But something really new often is born when a designer has a persistently held idea that they've had for a long time, and they wait long enough for new technology to come and make that dream come alive. And this time around, my vision was transformed into something completely different from all those prototypes that we'd spent so much energy on. And today, people are so taken with the Miis around the world that I'm actually working on a new Wii channel. So we're going to, with this channel, we're going to allow people